Well, welcome to the 700 Club. Stunning revelations about the 2020 election. President Trump's legal team says it has evidence that foreign software was used to steal the election, and that the evidence is strong enough to overturn the results in multiple states. Is it possible that President Trump has won by millions of votes, which were taken away from him? Dale Hurd has that.
The media continue to pressure the president to admit he lost to Joe Biden. But lawyers for the president say software from a company called Dominion Voting Systems was used to steal the election. When President Trump tweeted over the weekend that Biden won because the election was rigged, the media said the president was finally admitting defeat. But the president followed up that Biden, quote, only won in the eyes of the fake news media. The Biden camp is frustrated that the Trump administration is not admitting defeat and not allowing government agencies to cooperate with its transition team.
We can't until we get that GSA ascertainment that authorizes us to contact government officials. And so we can't have any of those kinds of contacts until we get to that stage of ascertainment.
And even many Republicans believe Joe Biden is the president-elect and should be treated as such.
It is very important that Joe Biden have access to the intelligence briefings to make sure that he is prepared.
But the president's legal team says it has evidence that foreign software from companies called Dominion and Smartmatic were used to steal the election. Trump lawyer Rudy Giuliani appeared on the Fox News program Sunday Morning Futures.
It's way beyond what people think, including a very, very dangerous foreign company that did the votes in 27 states, a company that's not American, a company that's foreign, a company that has close ties with Venezuela and therefore China, and uses Venezuelan company software that's been used to steal elections in other countries.
Attorney Sidney Powell promises the evidence exists to overturn the election results in multiple states.
First of all, I never say anything I can't prove. And President Trump won by not just hundreds of thousands of votes, but by millions of votes that were shifted by this software that was designed expressly for that purpose. We have sworn witness testimony of why the software was designed. It was designed to rig elections.
One witness in Georgia has sworn in an affidavit that he saw votes for President Trump mysteriously disappear from election totals. The company in question, Dominion Voting Systems, a Canadian company headquartered in Denver, was reportedly rejected by the state of Texas and has been criticized by both Republicans and Democrats for failing to meet minimum security standards. Dominion Voting Systems says it categorically denies false assertions about vote-switching issues with our voting systems. But the chairman of Smartmatic is Peter Neffinger, who is also on Joe Biden's transition team. Smartmatic has been tied to allegations of election rigging overseas. On its website, Smartmatic says it's not a Venezuelan company, and its software was not used in states where the results are being contested. Giuliani calls Dominion a radical left company and says he's lined up the witnesses who will prove in court that the presidential election was rigged. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Doesn't it shock you, ladies and gentlemen? Doesn't it shock you? And I'm so sick of hearing anchors, including those on Fox News, saying the unproven allegations, the president without any evidence, There is reams of evidence. There are reams, I should say, of evidence pointing to fraud in this thing. Reams of sworn testimonies. And people, you hear these guys saying, well, they're unproven allegations. Well, he doesn't have to prove anything. He's got to, first of all, show the evidence. Then you get the proof. Well, he has no evidence. The evidence is overwhelming. And to think that Venezuela might be controlling the company that in turn handles the huge amount of software that handles the ballots to control the election of the United States, it's horrifying to even contemplate. And where I was told that the huge servers having millions of ballots was in Germany. Now I understand it may well be in Barcelona, Spain, but it's not in America. This is something that we cannot permit. We cannot allow this to happen in this great country, and we cannot allow our elections to be stolen. And I hope that the people in the so-called fake media will behave themselves and stop saying the president should be quiet and accept the results and roll over and give Biden everything he asked for. No way, no how. Well, in other news, new hope in the battle against the raging coronavirus. A second vaccine is now showing very promising results. Ephraim Graham has more from our CBN newsroom.
Pat Moderna reports its vaccine is 94.5% effective in preventing the coronavirus. That is according to early reports from the company's phase 3 trials. It's the second vaccine in a week to show encouraging results. The news couldn't come at a better time as the U.S. added more than 1 million new cases in the last week, with a total of 11 million nationwide. Hospitalizations are up in every state except 2. And states like Washington and Michigan are tightening up restrictions, with Michigan putting a 3-week pause into place, closing schools and restaurants and shutting down high school sports. Turning now to a growing international threat. Last week's revelations, Iran has far more enriched uranium than expected. Has many experts concerned, the rogue nation is further along in developing a nuclear bomb than anyone suspected. As Chris Mitchell now reports, some wonder if this could provoke an Israeli response.
Before the proverbial ink was even dry on the Iranian nuclear deal signed in 2015, Iran has pushed its limits.
Slow but consistent breaching of the limitations that Iran took upon itself when it signed the JCPOA in the summer of 2015. Now, it's doing it step by step.
While misbehavior like that led President Trump to pull out of the international agreement, Iran's tactics seem to be working. The most recent report of the UN's International Atomic Energy Agency discovered Iran now has 12 times the amount of low-enriched uranium allowed by the so-called deal. According to the Institute for Science and International Security, Iran's estimated breakout time as of late September 2020 is as short as 3.5 months. That time frame would be early 2021. But that element is just the first of 2 steps towards a nuclear weapon.
The other point is how to assemble a nuclear device. It's not the same. How you create the device to start the nuclear reaction.
That makes the major question. How long would it take for Iran to have a nuclear bomb?
I would say that if Iran decides that it puts away all kind of international inspector oversight considerations and go fast forward, then Iran can become nuclear, fully nuclear, meaning with the ability to put a bomb on a missile, etc., between 3 and 5 years.
Well, tonight I'm here to tell you one thing. Iran lied.
In April 2018, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu went on prime time to unveil thousands of documents taken straight from Iran's secret atomic archives.
What we found in the archives is a good answer to all those who said, nah, the Iranians are not serious. The archive gave us a clear picture of very serious project, which was very much advanced.
For Israel, the question of a nuclear Iran remains a daily exercise.
Our philosophy is very clear. We are getting every morning, we ask ourselves, will tomorrow will be too late? If the answer is no, we are going for another day. And when the minute will come, if the minute will come, and we will have to answer ourselves, yes, tomorrow will be too late, then we will have to ask ourselves, okay, what we are doing.
It's clear after facing the potential of a nuclear Iran, Israel has been preparing to answer that question for a long time.
Well, Chris is with us now from Jerusalem. Chris, there was a report in the Jerusalem Post that Netanyahu has met with the leaders of the ITF, and they literally are planning a strike against those Iranian nuclear, wherever they have their uranium. Do you have any update on that?
Well, that's a speculation here right now, Pat, that there could be a possible window, and this happened again in 2008, you may remember, between the election of President Barack Obama and George Bush that had to leave. And there was a window, they felt, between the election and the inauguration. Now, right now, as we just saw, the election is quite in doubt, but there is a possibility, the speculation that they could attack. Now, an attack like that, Pat, would be very, very challenging. You know, you have multiple sites all over Iran. They learned from what happened in 2007 and 1981 when Israel took out Iraq's nuclear program and Syria's nuclear program. So right now, their nuclear facilities are spread all over Iran. Many of them are underground. So there remains to be seen whether or not they actually will take the initiative to do that. We know, Pat, from information that in 2012, then Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu wanted to attack, but his cabinet wouldn't let him. But we see from those archives that were discovered by the Mossad back in 2018 that they had really progressed substantially on a nuclear program, not just enriching uranium, but also trying to develop a nuclear warhead.
Chris, the North Koreans apparently have nuclear weapons, and they wouldn't hesitate to share that technology with Iran. Has any of that taken place?
Well, I'm sure there's 3 countries right now, Pat, that are sharing information with Iran. That would be North Korea, as you said, Russia, and China. And so, you know, and there is speculation. In fact, there was a geopolitical thriller by our friend Joel Rosenberg that said North Korea was going to transfer some of its nuclear weapons to Iran. And so that would be one way that Iran could get a nuclear weapon. But, you know, there's a lot of happening right now, Pat, and especially this report is very troubling about the fact that they have 12 times the amount of enriched uranium. Right now, it's about 3.5%. Now, to get to weapons grade, you have to go to 90%. But because of the physics, it really doesn't take that long. That's why they say about 3.5 months, they can have enough enriched uranium to have a nuclear bomb. The question is whether or not they have a nuclear device to put on it. And one last thing, Pat, that people really need to know about is the fact that Iran has a robust, impressive ballistic missile system that can deliver a nuclear warhead. And now they're very precise, and now they have what they call a missile train, where they can fire multiple ballistic missiles at one time. And even Israel, with probably the world's best anti-missile system, may not be able to hit all those incoming missiles.
Chris, you know, I'm a believer in the Bible prophecy, and in Ezekiel, there's discussion of a Gog and Magog, which would be Turkey, joining with Persia, which of course is Iran, to move against Israel. And he doesn't say anything about nuclear, it just says a huge force. But what do you think? I mean, is the possibility during this interregnum, if I can use that term, in the United States, that Erdogan, who thinks himself the new caliphate, he may join with Iran to move against Israel?
It's a possibility, Pat, whether or not it would have in this interregnum, as you said. But we have a story coming up on Thursday, you'll be glad to know, about Turkey. And we have an expert saying that Turkey and Iran are really on the same page. They are different in their Islam. One is Sunni, the other is Shiite. But really, they both have the same ambitions. And one of those ambitions is to come and take over Jerusalem and destroy the Jewish state. So there is a coordination, a collaboration between, at least in their ideologies. And very well, because of what Ezekiel said, we could see that kind of alliance, coming to fruition in the near future.
So you've got that story on Thursday, so more about what Erdogan is saying. He is a nasty thug, in my opinion. He's a terrible dictator. And you've got a story about that coming up for us, right?
We do. And all of the nefarious things that Turkey is doing throughout the Middle East, you can look at Libya, you can look at northeast Syria, northwest Syria, you can look at what they just did with the Armenian-Azerbaijan war, sending Syrian jihadists into that war. So so many things around the Middle East. Erdogan seems to be poking his finger, poking his face. Greece is another one. And so we'll have that story on Thursday, Pat.
Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, the Bible is coming alive before our eyes. It's amazing, just amazing.